Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're starting Space Month this month. After last week's adventure, I'm trying to remember what we did last week. I'm pulling up Excel right now. I've been playing so much, especially with the 2009-10 hockey season starting up, that it's kind of blended for me after a little bit. I'm just letting Excel pull up here. Here we are. Oh, that's right, we were golfing last week. This week we're starting Space Month as we're playing Talon by GMT Games. This is a game that's set with the two factions being the Terrans, essentially the Earth dwellers, and the Talon. So this is a game set in the year 2112 with the invention of near faster than light drive. So that's what we're doing here. Now, I've talked before about, and the goal of this scenario is to destroy all the ships from the looks of it. I've talked before about an engine I've been training on ChatGPT, and I've got this. I'm a little bit hesitant about this one, especially after setting up last night. So we're going to push some pieces around here and see what I think of this one. And I'm going to be very much learning this game as well. So we've got our two cruisers for both sides. First up, we've got the Napoleon, which has got a power curve of 332, so 3 power, 3 speed, turn radius of 2. Same thing for the Zhukov, and each of the sides has got shields with them as well. Then we've got the Justice and the Unity for the Talon. They've got a power curve of a 331, which relates to on the impulse track. So when those numbers appear, we either have to fire and or move. Actually, let's see, remove any shield markers, use any and all AP that each of them receive this impulse, okay? So yeah, we're going to be very much learning this game, because we actually don't need too much to start with the first couple of scenarios here. And I'm trying to figure out how much 1 point of power becomes available. So essentially each ship gets 1 action when their number comes up on the impulse phase. So I think with that we are all set. Ooh, felt that crack, felt the knuckles crack. When the impulse, okay, when that ship receives AP, when it matches, they have to move. Okay, so the Talon always starts off as the initiative player. For Impulse A, I see 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to bring the chart over here. I see a 4, 5, 6, so none of our ships do anything. During Impulse B, we've got a 3, 5, and 6. So both sides get AP and they have to move. So they either have to move in the direction they're facing, or they have to turn. So the Talon with the initiative, what are they going to do here? Let's see. They are going to... so they get AP and they have to move. Question is, what can they do with that AP? They are going to... I think they're both going to defend the initiative with their AP. So a possible change on that. So they're both defending the initiative on Impulse B. As for the two Terran ships, they both get Impulse, or they both get, and they have to move. So they're just going to move straight forward. And I believe that's an acceptable... Oh, so they have to spend an action to enable... They have to spend an action to enable side-slipping. Yep, okay. Alright, so... I think the Napoleon is going to charge its battery, which is another AP it can use, and these are actually dry erase counters. So we're going to try that. And then I'm going to have the Zhukov actually enable the side slip. And then both of these ships have to move. The Napoleon will move straight forward, whereas the Zhukov is going to side slip over here to the side. Hence the name side slip. This is independent of the turn radius, so they're not doing any kind of turning. Right. Okay, moving over to Impulse C. Once again, 2, 4, 5, and 6 are the numbers in question. Then Impulse D, 3's all around once again. So they both get AP and have to move. So what do our ships want to do here? What's the order on that, by the way? It must move. That can move can do one of the following. You move the ships in any order. Okay. Well, that's still not explaining what the order is between if I want to take the action or move. Is it saying there's an order for that? Okay, so after spending AP, move. So it looks like you take the actions first. Okay, so I think since there's not really much else for them to do right now, Talon would have to take an action, I believe, to charge their afterburners. It's not telling me how. Or use the afterburners, but it's not telling me how you recharge those. Can only use one afterburner with an impulse, but it's still not telling me how you recharge those afterburners. Can only be used once in a scenario and can't be recharged. Never mind. So the Unity, I think, actually we've got the Unity and the Justice both. They've both taken defend the impulse. They are going to charge. Actually, yeah, they're going to charge a weapon box, I believe. Yes. They're going to charge a yellow box on each of their weapons. Actually, it looks like they've got red boxes that they need to charge. Do those charge? Those don't charge passively, do they? Red boxes are only charged during the power phase, so they can't. Actually, they could charge those even if there are uncharged red boxes. They're actually going to charge one of these weapon boxes on each side of their ships, and then they both have to move. So they're both moving straight forward. Then for the Terrans, they're going to do the same thing. So the Zhukov is going to charge this one and then charge here. And then both of them are moving forward as well. Then E would only be a 6, so nothing there. And F, which means everybody gets AP and has to move. So they're going to charge on the other side. And then move. Uh-oh. We might have to be aware of a collision here. Moves into the same hex. Okay, ships takes 3 damage on the side of the shield. Ship's owner shoots. If a ship moves into the same hex as another ship of its race, both ships take 3 damage. Ship's owner chooses. Okay, so I think with that in mind, the Napoleon's AP is going to go to enabling a side slip, whereas the Zhukov is going to charge this phaser on the other side. So it looks like we've got phasers on both sides, and we've got... Let's see, that looks like an antimatter torpedo. So yeah, everything's going to move here. Zhukov's going to move up there. The Napoleon's going to side slip in this direction. Okay. Then we go to the power phase. Each charge bar. So for the Talon ships, each charge bar on each ship can either charge a yellow bar passively or charge one red. So I think the Talon is going to charge, I think the Unity is going to charge both of their reds, as is the Justice. The Zukov has got a few more. Right. So yeah, the Zukov is going to charge a red on each of those. Two sets of phasers and a set of antimatter torpedoes, and the Napoleon is going to do the same. There we go. Then the reinforcement phase, there's no reinforcement. And then we advance the round and go back to Impulse A. The defend initiatives come off, and the Talon stays as having the initiative. So now we're into round 2. Alright, then actually we've got an option for each ship to adjust the power curve. We're all cruisers in this scenario. So I think we're gonna have the what do I want to do with this? I don't think either side is going to adjust their power curve for now. I'm still getting the feel for this, so I'm not sure I want to do anything with adjusting the power curve just yet. Right. Alright, so that brings us back to Impulse A for a new round. Nobody does anything in this round. B is another round. Actually, everybody's acting. So what do we want to do here? Looks like everybody's coming somewhat together. The Talon will act first. The Talon, those are wave motion guns. The Talon is the Justice is going to charge one of their sets of wave motion guns, as will the Unity. And they're both moving. Okay. And then for the Terran ships, the Terrans are in blue, the Talon are in red. Let's see. The Zukov is going to charge its antimatter torpedoes. Actually, they're going to get a battery. And the Napoleon's going to finish charging its phaser on this side, and they're both moving. Actually, they're both going to work on turning. So they're going to turn here, but now they get counters for that because they've got a turn radius of 2, which the turn goes... After completing the turn, place a turn radius marker equal to the turn radius. So we've got 2s for both of them. And a 2 over here. C is 2, 4, 5, and 6. So nothing happening there. D is 3, 4, 5, and 6. So everybody's getting AP and moving. Right. So the Justice is going to continue charging its wave motion gun on the left side, as will the Unity. And they're both going to turn as well with a turn radius of 1. Let's see. The Unity is going to turn this way with a turn radius of 1. Then in action, Okay. For an action for the Napoleon, actually for both of them, they're going to both work on powering through the turn. Pulling that closer. And then with powering through the turn, they move, which means now both ships can turn again. And we're trying to get something going on over here. E is a 6, so nothing happening there. Then F means everybody's getting AP and moving. So the AP for the Talon, the Justice is going to finish charging its wave motion guns, as will the Unity. Both of them will finish on their turn, so they can turn again. As for the Terran ships, and the Justice is getting ready to move off the map at this point. So now I've got to figure out how the floating map works. The board is floating. If a ship is about to move off a planet, all the ships and planets can be shifted over the same amount, so there's room to move. So we're gonna have to shift. Probably gonna have to shift everything. So we're probably going to have to shift everything over. Since the Justice is getting ready to move off to the right, I think everything's going to have to move a space to the left. But I'll deal with, actually, I'm going to have to deal with that now. So I will start shifting everything over to the left. And this is just the map shifting, so the Justice has room to move. Right, so Justice is moving there. The Unity is moving here. Then for the Terran ships, the Zhukov is going to charge this set of antimatter torpedoes. Then the Napoleon, everything's going to be moving back to the right here momentarily, since the Napoleon is now about to move off the map. Yeah, we're going to start shifting everything over back to the right here. Since the Napoleon's getting ready to move. Oh, we've got a mess here. I probably should have used the big map for this one. Actually, there's not enough room, I don't think, to lay both of these maps out on this table. This is the half map I've got set up, by the way. I'm discovering that this game is going to get to be a sprawly mess. Okay, I think that's the best we're going to do there, unless I have the Napoleon turn, which is actually not a terrible idea. The question is, what direction do I want to have it turn? And actually, I may be having both of these ships turn. Yeah, we did charging on both of them. So yeah, the Napoleon's going to turn in this direction. And then the Zhukov is going to turn here, trying to get a shot on one of these Talon ships. 2 hexes away. Then we go to the power phase. Each charge bar on each ship, we can either charge a yellow or... Actually, how do we passively charge? If no red box needs to be charged, okay. Instead, equal to the number of weapons in that group. So, the Justice on their... What are those? Their disruptors get to charge 2 yellows passively. Same thing for the Unity. And may adjust the power curve by 1 step. I think the Unity this time will adjust the power curve on the Unity, just to make it a little bit easy, just to give me a little bit of variety in this game. And also, if I'm doing anything wrong in this game, feel free to chip in the chat or the comments down below. Just as usual, be gentle, be nice about it. And I'm probably going to need dry erase wipes here soon. Let's see, the power curve. Which way do we want to adjust the power curve for the Unity? That's a heavy cruiser. I think we're going to adjust that to 242. So that was right here, I think. So that's the adjustment we're going to make for the Unity. And then the Justice is fine. As for the Terrans, they're going to charge the last antimatter torpedo group. And then they've got, so that was their charge bar there. Then the Napoleon is going to charge this red power bar on the antimatter torpedoes. Then they're going to... What are they going to do in terms of adjusting on the power curve? They're going to... Actually, I think the Zhukov is going to adjust on their power curve. The Zhukov is going to go to a 421 as well. And this is going to be a really weird writing at this angle. I kind of managed it. Okay, that's the power phase. We've got no reinforcements. We advance the round marker and go to Impulse A. Now, Impulse A has got 4s where the Zhukov gets AP and it has to move, but the Unity actually... No, the Zhukov gets AP, the Unity has to move. Where's the Unity going to move? The Unity... The Unity is actually going to turn... Actually, they were here, so yeah. They're going to turn there, and they get a 2 on their turn radius now. Then the Zhukov gets AP, so it's going to power through its turn. But it doesn't get to act. Then on 3... The Justice and the Napoleon both have to do both. So I think the Justice will go ahead and charge the last space on their disruptors, and then they're going to have to move. They're going to shift everything left. That's a problem. We'll do it like that. That way the Justice has room to move. Then the Napoleon is actually going to power through its turn. No. They're going to charge their antimatter torpedoes. And then they'll move. Okay. And then Impulse C is now where the Unity gets AP and the Zhukov has to move. So the Unity is going to power through its turn with its AP, and then the Zhukov is going to move through its turn, and it's ready to turn again. Impulse D is a 4 once again, which means the same thing happens as before. The Zhukov gets AP, the Unity has to move. The Unity moves through its turn, and the Zhukov is going to finish charging its antimatter torpedoes. Then Impulse E does nothing. Impulse F, everybody is doing all of their things. So that should be a 1. Okay, so the Talon are still the initiative player. The Justice is going to... The Justice is all charged and ready to go. So they are going to... They're going to enable a side slip. Is what they're going to do. As are the Unity. As is the Unity. And that's for... Okay, so they're going to enable side slip, and the Unity will side slip. Actually, the Justice will side slip. Once again, we're going to shift everything left. Actually, that's not going to work. Because the Napoleon is already off the map here. So the Justice will side slip. Actually, they both sides. Actually, the Unity is going to side slip that way as well. And then for the Napoleon and the Zhukov, they're both going to enable side slip as well, I think. Yeah. And then Napoleon will move on side slip, which will take away their turn radius, as will the Zhukov moving up here. Power phase, I think everybody's all fully charged up. No, actually, the Unity's got a yellow bar on their double disruptors that they can still charge. And then they're not going to adjust power curves. Same thing for the Napoleon. No power curve adjustments necessary there as well. And we're into round 4. Excuse me. And back to Impulse A yet again. So Impulse A is the Unity moving and the Zhukov getting AP. So the Unity is going to... The Unity, what's the Unity going to do here? The Unity is actually going to turn. So they get a 2 on their turn radius. Then the Zhukov gets AP, which it doesn't really have AP that it can do here, so that it can do anything with. So it's actually going to try to change the initiative. Then on 3, the Napoleon and the Justice both get AP and have to move. So... Let's see. So looking at the Justice... It's actually going to try to defend the initiative here. Because there's not much else it can do. And then the Justice is going to turn. I'm going to try to get these turned so I'm not shifting the map so much. As for the Napoleon, it's going to try to change the initiative as well. And then they're going to turn over there. We'll eventually be shifting the map yet again. So 1, 2. All right. Over to Impulse C next. The Impulse C says the Unity gets AP. The Zhukov's going to have to move. So the Unity is going to try to defend the initiative here as well. And then the Zukov is going to turn this way. And that's a turn radius of 1. Impulse D, same thing as before. Actually, the Unity now moves, and the Zukov gets AP. So the Unity has to move straight forward. The Zukov is going to power through its turn, which means it can turn again, because it gets AP. Impulse E, nothing happening there. Impulse F, everyone is getting AP and moving. So looking at the Justice, they're going to power through their turn, as will the Unity. And then moving, the Justice is going to turn again. And the Unity... The Unity will turn as well. I'm going to have to move... Actually, is there going to be room if I do that? Yeah. We're going to turn the Unity this way, setting a 2 out there. Then the Napoleon's going to power through its turn, and the Zukov is going to try to change the initiative as well. Then the Napoleon moves up here, takes that away. The Zukov is going to turn this way, taking a turn marker. Or taking a, turn radius of 1. Okay, the initiative player. Everything's all fully charged up for both sides. And then adjust power curve by 1 step. We're not going to do that. And we check the initiative in the... Let's see. We probably check the initiative marker during the... When do we check that? Players may force their opponent to have the initiative. So it looks like we check that. It's not telling me when we check that. Oh wait, Terran player... Oh, looks like we check that after every phase. And we're change initiative markers at the end of the impulse. Okay, so that checks... Okay, so we check that after each impulse. I thought that was a whole turn thing. So we're going to pretend that... Let's see, there were 5. I think there were enough to change the initiative. I'm a little bit annoyed, though, that... there aren't enough markers here, that there aren't enough chits to provide for initiative markers for each... That there aren't enough initiative markers to provide for all 6 impulses, just as a reference to... Because the thing is, let me bring this up for a second so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. We'll be on round 5 when we come out of this. But you can see here on the impulse track that there are spaces for initiative and second player, and then a reinforcement phase. The thing that bothers me is there's not enough chits included with the game to be able to say, okay, the Talon's going to be the initiative player in impulse A, but then it's the Terrans in initiative B. I suppose you could have just one marker for each impulse being the what's the word I want? Being the initiative player, and then assuming the other one's the second player. But I think I'd probably have it would make it a lot easier for me, and I could probably rig something up if I think this is a game I'm doing more with, which I'm far from completely sure that I am. But we'll see what I think when it's all over, because I would like to get at least one round of combat in before I totally junk this one out. So we are in round 5, and it's 4s, which means the Unity has to move, the Zukov gets AP. which the Unity will actually just have to move, and then the Zukov is going to power through their turn. Impulse B says 3s, which means the Napoleon and the Justice both get AP and have to move. So the Justice is going to power through its turn, and then it's going to turn here. The Napoleon is going to... Actually, could the Justice fire on the Zukov? I think forward, left, right, and rear. And let's see where this lands. I'm just going to check the firing arc for the Justice, because the Zukov theoretically is in range to try to fire. Forward... no, I don't think they could fire on the Zukov. Actually, what's the range on the Disruptors? Looks like you can fire up to a range of 4. So, yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4. The Justice actually could fire on the Zukov using one of their groups of weapons, or would they expend them all? So yeah, I think the Justice actually could fire. Select a fully charged weapon group. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's where we're going to... I think we're going to use this here. So the Justice actually is going to fire on the Zukov since it is just barely in range. So we're going to erase the leftmost... We're going to erase the leftmost group of Disruptors. And then there are 2 Disruptors in the group. So the Justice is firing Disruptors at the Zukov. Which means we roll, select the weapon within the weapon group and the target. Fire by rolling a die. So at a range of 4... trying to hit the Zukov, looks like on the front shield. That's a 3, which won't do anything, and the other Disruptor is a 1, that won't do anything either. Okay. Alright. So that is... all clear there. Okay. So yeah, we're back to Impulse B. Right, that was after they moved. Then the Napoleon is going to... The Napoleon actually doesn't have anything it can do in the action phase right now. It could enable side slip. Actually, it'll try to change the initiative for Impulse B. And then the Napoleon's actually going to turn, which will be a turn marker of a 2. And then they're going to fire using their... Actually, can they fire using their torpedoes? No, they can't. Yeah, they don't have torpedoes on that side, so they're not going to use those. Impulse C, 2, 4, 5, and 6, which means the Unity gets AP and has to move, as does the Zukov. So the Unity gets its 1 AP. It'll power... Right, it'll power through its turn. Then it'll move into the turn. And there's nothing it can do there. As for the Zukov, it will... It's actually not getting anything from AP either, so it's going to... Actually, it's going to enable side slip. And then it's going to side slip, and then from the front, it can fire... It's going to fire its antimatter torpedoes. It's going to fire a round of torpedoes at the Justice. So now we're going to erase the torpedoes. The phasers are fully charged, by the way. So the torpedoes at a range of... the torpedoes at a range of 3 need a 3 to 6 to do 4 damage. That's a 6, so that'll be doing 4 damage to the Justice. That's going to hit on the forward shields. 1 point of damage destroys 1 shield or hull box. Okay, so yeah, 4 damage to the Justice's forward shields. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So actually, yeah, there's no AP, and it enabled side slip and moved. So now, yeah, the Zhukov just fired on the Justice and did 4 damage. Alright, Impulse D says, actually for Impulse B, the Terrans are the initiative player. Right, Impulse D means everybody is, actually means the Napoleon's got to do both, as does the Justice. The Unity has to move, the Zhukov gets AP. Let's see, so the Unity has to move, which means it's moving here. Actually, it's going to move here on a turn radius of 2. Could it fire on the Zhukov from the rear? It probably could, actually. Yeah, it's going to use its it's going to use its port side disruptors, and I just threw the dry erase wipe I was using away. Okay, so from a range of 3, the disruptors hit on a 3 to 6 for 2 damage. That's a 3, and that's a 2. So 2 damage to the Zhukov on the rear shields. Okay, so that's it for... Hold on. There we go. Okay, so that was the Unity. The Justice is going to power through its turn, move forward, and it's going to use its disruptors on the Zhukov as well. From a range of 2, it needs a 2 to 6 to hit, and it's got 2 sets of disruptors. That's a 2, and that's a 5. So 4 damage on the front shields for the Zhukov. Then for the Terrans, let's see, the Napoleon is going to power through its turn, and then the Zhukov is going to recharge its antimatter torpedoes. Then the Napoleon's going to move, clearing its turn radius. The Zhukov is going to move, and it's going to use its phasers on the Justice. And from range of 1, it can potentially do some serious damage, but let's see what the roll is. That's a 6, so that'll be another 2 damage on the front shields of the Justice. Okay, back into Impulse E. Nothing happens there. Impulse F, everybody's doing stuff. So, the Unity is going to power through its turn. The Justice is going to start charging its disruptors again. And the Unity is going to move, complete its turn. the Justice is going to move up here. As for the Terrans, let's see, the Zhukov is going to start charging its, just recharge its antimatter torpedoes. Then it's going to turn. That is a 1. And the Napoleon is going to try to change the initiative. Then it's going to turn as well, needing a turn radius of a 2. And then it's going to use its torpedoes the phasers are still fully charged. It's using its torpedoes on the Unity from the blind side. At a range of 3, needs a 3 to 6 to hit. Which that's a 5, so that'll be actually 4 damage on the rear shields for the Unity. Now the question is trample damage a thing here? So So the question I have here is I'm doing 4 damage, which is enough to flatten that shield. But do we... Does damage trample over? Any additional damage taken on that arc is marked off on the hull boxes. Okay, so it looks like trample damage does carry over. Which means those 3 are out, and now we mark a box on the hull for the Unity. And I assume, yep, looks like we mark from left to right. Okay. Right. And then that was everybody. So now we're into the... Okay, this is what's confusing. On the impulse track, it's showing power phase like initiative, which still makes me think initiative is an entire impulse. In the upcoming impulse and beyond. That's what's been confusing me about it, is you check it. So it's not an individual impulse. So it is a... Okay, so it is a... What's the word I want? So it looks like it is a whole round thing. I'm still not completely clear on that. Alright, so the initiative... So looking at the power phase next. So for each charge bar... we got to charge a red on the phasers for the Zhukov and one for their antimatter torpedoes. The Napoleon has to do the same on their antimatter torpedoes. Then they can advance the power curve by 1. They are... not going to do that. As for the Talon... They've got to charge reds on both of their disruptors for the Justice. And a red on their portside disruptors for the Unity. And we go back to Impulse A for round 6. Alright, 4, 5, 6, which means the Zhukov gets AP. The Unity has to move. So the Zhukov is going to charge its phasers. Then, what is it going to do here? After moving, any and all ships may fire. Are they going to use their phasers here? I think the answer for the Zhukov is yes. They're going to fire on the Justice. The antimatter torpedoes are not fully charged yet. So firing on at the stern of the Justice with their phasers. That's a 3, so that'll do 2 damage on the stern. And then the Unity has to move. It's going to move here. Impulse B says the 3s are doing things. The Napoleon's going to charge its antimatter torpedoes. Then it's going to move, and it'll fire on the Justice with its phasers at a range of 2. That's a 5. That'll do 2 damage to the Justice. And we mark off a hull box. Okay. Then the Justice is getting AP. It'll continue to charge up its disruptors. And then it's going to move as well. The 1 is for the Napoleon completing its turn. Okay, Impulse C is the Zhukov and the Unity doing things. So the Zhukov is going to charge its phasers. Then it's going to move through the turn. The Unity is going to charge the disruptors. And then it's going to turn. Then Impulse D is everybody doing, actually, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the Zhukov gets AP. The Napoleon does both. The Justice does both. And the Unity has to move. So the Zhukov is going to... It's getting AP. There's not a way to reinforce shields, I don't think. Is there? Yes, there is, actually. Shield reinforcement. 1 shield reinforcement, maybe... Oh, here we go. Shield reinforcement on Impulse E, I think. Is that how that works? Let's see. 6.2. Acts as 1 extra shield box before being removed. Okay. Shield markers expire 1 round after they're placed. So the Zhukov is going to place that on the... It's probably going to take them a little bit to get it turned, but they're going to place that on their front arc. Then they're going to turn in this direction. Actually, it doesn't move this impulse, so never mind. Let's see. The Napoleon, however, is moving. It's probably going to be turning, most likely. So let's see what I want to do. I'm going to have it actually continue charging its antimatter torpedoes. Then, as I mentioned, it is going to turn. So it's going to end up there with a turn radius of 2. Then it's going to use its portside phasers on the Justice. From a range of 1. Actually, yeah, powered through the turn. Oh, wait. So it probably would have... Yeah, it would have powered through its turn and then turned again. So it's still using its portside phasers. That's a 4, and that's 2 damage. So that's 2 more on the Justice. Which means it's got to roll for critical damage, and it reduces its power curve by 1. That's an 8, which is power relay damage, minus 1 power. Yikes. That could be problematic for the Justice. So actually it's got minus 2 power right now. because its leftmost hull marker is also a -2. So yeah, we've got major problems right now for the Justice. Let's see. So the Zhukov reinforced, the Napoleon did both. The Justice is going to... Yikes. So a -2 is a 1 on the... There's going to be a 1 on the power curve. Let's see. So what does the Justice want to do here? Probably not a whole lot, I don't think. I'm just going to understand how the power markers work here. So if the power markers are there, let's check the power curve. That's probably going to be where I'm going to find out most about it. Okay. Right. Okay. Lost her front shields, only has one more hull box. Okay, so yeah, trying to figure out what the Justice wants to do here. It's going to keep charging up its disruptors. Then it's going to move into the same space as the... Actually, is it going to move into the same space as the Napoleon? It is... Okay, this is not something I've ever understood. Can enemy ships be in the same space? They... Ships of different races may pass through each other freely. Okay. So the Justice will move on top of the Napoleon, but it can't fire since they're somewhere in different space. Right. Then the Unity is going to charge its disruptors. Then it's going to turn with a turn radius of 2 and fire on the Zhukov with its disruptors. Right. At a range of 3, first disruptor hits, as does the second. So it'll take 2 damage on... So it'll take 2 damage on the rear shields, and then 2 more damage on the... And 2 hull damage. So that's a -1 for the Zhukov on the power curve. Okay. Right, so E is 6, nothing happens, which means everybody's doing things on impulse F. So everybody gets AP and has to move. Let's see, the initiative player first, though. The Zhukov is going to... What did we say on shields? Each arc can have 1 enforcement. Each shield arc can have 1 enforcement. Okay. So we'll reinforce arc F. We'll reinforce the shields for the Zhukov on arc F. Then it's going to turn here with a turn radius of 1. Then it can't attack because none of its groups are charged. The Napoleon is going to... The Napoleon's going to charge its antimatter torpedoes. And then it's going to move. So the Justice is still here. Speaking of the Justice, it's going to charge its disruptors up to full strength and then move. Then the Unity is going to work on charging its disruptors. and move as well. Now we're into a new power phase. Each charge bar will start off with the Terrans, since they're the initiative player. They've got to charge a couple reds. And then the starboard phasers are at full strength. The Napoleon's going to go back to full fighting strength as well. Then the Justice is going to charge up its set of disruptors, its portside disruptors, and the Unity will charge its portside disruptors up to full strength, but it's got to charge a red bar on the starboard. Alright, then we advance the round and we're back to Impulse A again. Actually, we have the option to adjust the power curve as well for each ship. Let's see, with a power curve of -1, actually -2 for the Justice. So that's actually going to turn into a 1-3-1, I think. Yeah. So that's a 1-3-1. If it takes another hit, the Justice is blown up. Then the Zhukov is a 3-2-1. And nothing else of note on any of the other ships. So now we're back to Impulse A, which means fours. So the Unity has to move. Yeah, the Unity has to move. Excuse me. So the Unity will move. And then it will use its disruptors, use its portside disruptors against the Zhukov. So it's coming at so the Unity is coming at the Zhukov from the portside shield arc. And it's got a range of 1, which a 5 will hit, but a 3 will not. And nobody else doing anything there. Impulse B, a 3s is the Napoleon doing both, and the Justice has to move. Actually, 3-2-1, the Zhukov gets AP as well. So the Napoleon is going to power through its turn. And then it's going to turn here. The Zhukov is going to get AP, and it's going to reinforce this port arc on B, on Impulse B. Then Impulse C is 2, 4, 5, and 6. So the Zhukov has to move, which it'll move there. The Unity is getting AP and it's moving. It'll work on charging this disruptor, and it will move here. Then 3, 4, 5, and 6. The Napoleon is doing both. The Napoleon's doing both. The Zhukov gets AP. So the Napoleon's going to power through its turn and then move. The Zhukov, it gets AP. So it's going to enable side slip. Actually, is it going to enable side slip, or is it going to charge? Nope, its weapon groups are all full. It's going to enable side slip. Nobody's doing anything in Impulse E. Impulse F. Let's see, the Napoleon's once again doing both. it's going to reinforce its shield arc on its rear arc, and then it's going to move. It's going to turn there. Then the Zukov is doing both. It's already got its side slip and its arc reinforced. It's got 3 shield arcs reinforced. The B just came down this round. E and F will be going away, though. It's going to defend the initiative, because why not? And it's going to move. It's going to move over here. Then for the Terrans, or for the Talon, I should say, the Unity is going to charge its disruptors, and it's going to move. As for the Justice, it will continue charging its disruptors as well, and it's going to turn here. And it's got range to try to fire on the Zukov with its starboard disruptors, and I think it's going to try it. All right, 2 dice, but it needs a 5 to 6 to hit. A 1 won't do anything, but the 6 will, which will take that off and do 1 damage to the port shield arc. I think we dealt with the Unity already, so we'll go to the power phase next. The Terrans are the Napoleon's fully charged, as is the Zukov. The Terrans also can passively charge. The Unity has to charge a set on their port disruptors. The starboard disruptors can get a yellow bar charged. Justice, same situation. And they're not going to adjust their power curve. Right. So actually expired shield markers, so these should go away. Then the defend the initiative goes away as well. Okay, no reinforcements. Ships may FTL, advance the round, and back to Impulse A. 4, 5, 6 is only the Unity moving. So the Unity is going to turn here with a turn radius of 2. Should still be a 2 for the Napoleon. Impulse B, which is 3, 5, 6, so the Justice has to move. The Zukov gets AP, and the Napoleon's moving. So the Napoleon will power through their turn and clear that. The Zukov is going to enable... Actually, are they going to enable side slipping? No. They're going to reinforce a shield arc. They're going to reinforce their starboard shield. Actually, yeah. No, they're going to reinforce their rear shield arc. Then a 2, 4, 5, 6 means the Zukov has to move. The Unity's doing both. So the Zukov, what did we say? The Zukov gets AP, but the Unity gets to do both. Let's see. The Zukov is going to... Are they going to risk trying to turn the... Are they going to risk trying to turning their rear to the Unity? That seems like a really stupid idea. No, I don't think they're going to risk that. What they're going to do is they're going to, what did we say? They have to move. So where do they want to move to? I think they're going to turn their starboard arc to the Unity. That way they've got something resembling a shield around them. Then the Napoleon doesn't do anything. The Unity is doing both. The Unity is going to charge its starboard disruptors. Those are full strength. And then it's going to... Actually, it's still got to keep moving up here because it turned earlier. That's what it's got to do. Then moving on over to Impulse D. 3, 4, 5, 6. So the Justice has to move. The Napoleon is doing both. The Napoleon is going to reinforce their front arc. And then they're going to turn over here. Then the Unity's moving, as is the Zhukov. So the Unity's up here. The Zhukov is over here. Impulse E is nothing. Impulse F is everything. Let's see. So the Napoleon... Actually, both of these are expired because now it's back to Impulse F. The Napoleon's going to power through its turn and then move there. So that's all clear. The Zhukov is going to do the... the Zhukov is going to... What is it going to do here? All its weapons are fully charged, too. It may try to take a shot at the Unity if it can get in position. It's going to reinforce its rear arc. Then it's going to move and take a shot at the Unity using its port phasers. Those two are damaged. So it's going to go for the phasers. Unfortunately for the Zhukov, it's going to be hitting the starboard arc. Assuming it hits to begin with. Which a 6 actually will do 2 damage. And Iggy Critical wants to know if I'm playing this solo. Yes, I am playing this solo. And probably, and most likely making a mess of it too, but I think my opinion is starting to form on this game a little bit, but I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that when the scenario is finally over. Whether I tap out or whether it actually ends on its own. Let's see, that was the Zhukov. The Napoleon is still at full strength, so it's going to enable side slip. And it's going to side slip over here. Then for both of our other ships, the Unity is going to continue charging its phasers. We're going to move everything down so there's room for the Unity to move. And the Unity will move. Actually, the Unity, what's it going to do here? I think it's going to turn. Turning arc of 2. The game doesn't have hidden information. Doesn't look to from what I'm seeing. Let's see. The Justice is going to power through its turn. And it's actually going to start a new turn over here. Okay. That brings us into the power phase. So each charge bar, the Napoleon's at full strength. The Zhukov is going to charge its phasers. Let's see. The Unity is going to charge disruptors on the port side. The Justice will charge both sets of disruptors. Nobody's adjusting the power curve, and we're back to Impulse A once again. Okay, 4, 5, and 6 says the Unity has to move. So it will move up there. That turns into a 1. Then on a 3, 5, 6, the Justice has to move as well. Actually, the Napoleon does both. The Napoleon's going to side... Actually, are they going to side slip? No, they're going to forfeit their action, but they will turn in that direction. So we need a 2 for the turn radius for the Napoleon. As for the Justice, they are moving, which will be a move like that. Then over to Impulse C, 2, 4, 5, 6. The Zhukov has to move. It's going to turn here with a turn radius of 1. This is making me want to play SFB. What, if you don't mind my asking, what is SFB? I'm still very new to the tabletop gaming. I would say I'm comparatively new to the tabletop gaming world, that I don't recognize an acronym like SFB. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yes. We did the Napoleon, the Zhukov's done. 2, 4, which means the Unity is doing both. The Unity is going to power through its turn, and then it's going to turn here. Then the Justice is not doing anything in this impulse. Starfleet battles. I'll have to look that up. Let me jot a note down here so I don't forget. I think I might have seen it on Wargame Vault. That might be where I'm kind of recognizing that name from. But I will make a note of looking that up. And I will say at this point, I'm very much starting to sour on Talon, mainly because I'm starting to see where sprawl could be a huge problem, but I'll talk more about that later toward the end of this video. Where was I? Oh yes, the Unity did its thing. The Justice, actually we said the Justice wasn't doing anything, so never mind. 3 through 6, the Napoleon's doing both. The Zhukov is getting AP. The Unity is moving, and as is the Justice. Okay, so the Zhukov is going to power through its turn. Yes. The Zhukov is going to power through its turn. Then the Napoleon is going to power through its turn, then move. It's also going to fire its torpedoes. And I just did it again and throwing out my dry erase wipe. Right, which one's the Napoleon going to aim the torpedoes at? It's going to aim at the Justice. So from a range of 3, it needs a 3 to 6 to hit with the antimatter torpedoes. That's a 3, so that'll completely wipe out the Justice's starboard arc. Okay. So that's it for the Napoleon, and it's got a, well, it did its movement already. Let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6. So both of the Talon ships are moving. So that turn radius is clear. Nobody's doing anything on turn E, or on impulse E and impulse F. Let's see, the Zhukov's shield arc on the rear arc expired, which it will take that back, and then it's going to turn here with a turn radius of 1. The Napoleon is going to charge the torpedoes again. Then it's going to move, and it'll fire its phasers. It'll fire its phasers at the Justice. Does it use all of them? Select a fully charged weapon group. We'll use the starboard phasers. How do I feel about complicated games? Let me finish up this round and then I'll talk to that. Because I have a feeling I'm starting to think more and more I'm getting ready to call this. Because I can tell I'm starting to have some problems with this game. That's a 1, so the Napoleon doesn't do anything, but it will move. It'll move up here. The Justice, what's it going to do? The Justice is going to reinforce its starboard arc. Then it's going to move. Then the Unity, that should have been a turn radius of 1, is going to reinforce its rear arc as well. And pull through and go through its turn. Then power phase, each ship charges. So the Napoleon starts charging up its phasers again, as does the Zhukov. The Justice is charging its disruptors, as is the Unity. And then anything else, well, power curve could be adjusted as well. But yeah, I think that's where I'm going to tap out and call this a game. So let me talk first to Iggy's question about how I feel about complicated games. I don't typically mind complicated games, especially when it's in service of a narrative, because I'm very much a narrative-first gamer when it comes to any of my games, whether it's war games, Euro games, anything else like that. Especially, that's probably why I'm starting to get into role-playing games so much, is because role-playing games are so narrative-forward in their focus. Whereas I'm starting to kind of get very much icy to this. I'm starting to get cold to this one. Because you guys saw I was doing a simple 2-on-2 scenario on the half map. This is actually the half map. Let me see if I can show you the full map. Yep, I still have the full-size board in here. So I'm going to get some of these counters out of my way. So I guess where my ramble is going on that, Iggy, is it depends on what the complicated game is in service of. If it's in service of a deep narrative, I don't typically mind it. Whereas if it's complexity just for complexity's sake, basically because reasons, I tend to be a lot colder to those types of games. Hopefully that word salad all kind of makes sense to you. Have I ever played ASL? No, I've never played ASL. I've heard that it is very complicated. I think complicated is something I've heard. And also, try not to jar my light here. Also, sprawling is something I've heard. And I don't typically take to that very well. But yeah, here's the... Morning, Doug. You're just in time for me to wrap up on Talon here. I'm starting to talk here a bit about some of the problems I'm starting to have with Talon. So let me back this camera up just a little bit. SFB is the ASL of space combat. So I guess I'm kind of questioning if I should look into Starfleet battles then. If it's if I'm getting complicated vibes out of ASL, I'm thinking maybe Starfleet Battles is one I should probably skip, especially if it's not in service of a deep narrative. But but coming back to my thoughts about the map, here's the full-size map of Talon. Now I'm laying this out, and I'm envisioning this whole scenario being a sprawling mess. I'm envisioning a scenario like this being a sprawling mess, and actually the board isn't even laying flat here. So when I like to normally set up the night before a video, I'd have to have something flat overnight, which I probably don't mind that. So if the narrative in ASL is second to none, I will definitely take a look at Starfleet Battles. But I guess where I'm going with this whole ramble is I'm seeing how the sprawl in Talon could potentially be very problematic, especially when a 2-on-2 scenario is already taking me into an hour and a half. I'd be at a full-length scenario at this of Talon for about a month and a week, which I'm not very warm to that, as you can probably imagine here. But so yeah, I'm going back and forth on if I want to hold on to Talon or not. But right now I'm leaning toward no, just on my first playthrough of this. I mean, there is some campaign stuff in Talon, but it's not something I'm sure I'm embracing at this point. But we're not quite. But I think I've got enough out of the way here that we can bring in a delivery that I got late yesterday, after my 2009-10 hockey season. My second 2009-10 replay game was in the books. So I just got this delivery in from Amazon, and we're going to see what's in here. Speaking of books, we've got the bestiary here for Dragonbane from Free League Publishing. Since I'm wanting to start exploring Dragonbane, I figured getting a book of enemies would probably be a handy thing to have. Oh, will no good deed go unpunished? I suppose time will tell, but right now things are looking bleak indeed. I have wandered, ridden, climbed, crawled, and swum all over this earth. I have spoken with all manners of creatures, observed, analyzed, and recorded almost everything worth knowing about the people and beings of the world. And yet here I am, unthanked and crouched in a godforsaken crevice, hunted by several of the creatures that I've graciously included in my catalog. How astoundingly rude. Theodora Sneezewort, one of a kind. From cat people to chimera, fairies to frog people, hippogriffs to hydras, and much more. This bestiary for the Dragonbane role-playing game includes no less than 63 wondrous creatures for the player characters to encounter. Each of them is brought to life in text and art, as well as a random encounter and a seed for a complete adventure. Among these fantastic beings, there are 9 new playable kin, each with their own unique ability. This full hardcover book is gloriously illustrated by Johan Egerkrans and David Brzgala. I don't like games that take a long time to play. I might not like SFB then. I don't necessarily mind games that take a long time to play. I think a lot of it is in how much fun I'm having with them. So length isn't inherently a disqualifying factor. The only reason I'm kind of sensitive to length is because on Sundays I usually have my game group coming over, and we're doing other things. Also, during replay season, I'm very sensitive to length as well, because I usually have to take stuff off the table before I set up the next game in a replay, which I'll be doing here once I sign off. So length isn't inherently like I said, I'm rambling on it, but length isn't inherently a bad thing. I'm also opening the bestiary, in case you're wondering what I'm hearing in the background. Length isn't inherently a bad thing for me. It's just something I'm kind of getting sensitive to as I'm dipping my toes into other content on the channel. But that will do it for this playthrough of Talon. As I mentioned, we'll be setting up the next block of the 2009-10 hockey season replay. We will be at the Bell Centre in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, for a game of Stratomatic hockey, as the Toronto Maple Leafs will be taking on the Montreal Canadiens on the channel. As for what else is scheduled on the channel, Do I vassal? Very rarely do I vassal. I usually like having the physical cards and dice and all of the other components in front of me, just giving me that kind of tactile sensation. And yes, I do understand vassal serves a purpose of kind of a social outlet. Like if I wanted to play with Ruff, for instance, or Jester, I'm not exactly going to be able to go over to the other side of the pond or down to Florida and be able to play with them. So electronic options do have their place. But when I have the choice, I do prefer having the physical components to use in front of me. So again, word salad amounts to not usually vassling. Where was I in plugging? Oh yes. On Wednesday, we will be having another debut on the channel as we lean more into an arena I like and play D100 Space. Saturday, Mystical Munchies. You agree, but Vassal greater than no games. I will echo that as well. As for Saturday, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the Exquisite Exandria cookbook as we make the side, Trinket's Bear Claws. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.